Hello friends, this is my first lecture today. Today we'll deal with chapter 9, chapter 5 of class 9, subject science. Chapter name is Fundamental Unit of Life. As we all know that what is the fundamental unit of life, the basic unit of life? Uh, this cells. The cells live to formation of different organisms. Okay, so I have divided this lecture in two parts. The part 1 here we'll discuss today. In part 1 we'll discuss the what is in the cell, different structure of the cell, functions of cell membrane, cell wall, cytoplasm, nucleus, difference between plants, animals, and the process of cell division. The next lecture in part 2 we will deal with the cell organelles and their different cell organelles and their functions in details. Okay, so move on to the next slide. So what do you mean by cell? Okay, as we know that cell, as the word suggests, cell, it's mean a small room or compartment. Or okay, the first time when Robert Hooke saw the cell in who discovered microscope, he saw a thin slice of cork observed in a microscope. He saw the honeycomb-like structures. You can view this structure like here. This is a honeycomb structure showing as observed by Robert Hooke. Okay, showing little compartments. So he named it as a cell. Okay, uh, what is a cell? As we all know, it's the chapter the fundamental unit of life. So cell is the basic structure and functional unit of all the organisms. It is also referred to as the building blocks of life. So why is it one question is there that why it is called the structure function unit? Why is it the structure function unit of organisms? All organisms, because as we read, cell forms the basic structure. Okay, it helps in the formation of structure. As whether in a single cell organisms it gives a structure, or in a multi-cell organisms it forms the group of cells from the different function give a different structure to the organism. Okay, so and also each individual cell are capable of performing different functions. Every individual cell performing different functions. So it is also called a function unit of organisms. Okay, so what is refers to the building block as discussed, because as we know that what is the building block of home? Yes, bricks, you know, a group of arranging the bricks at a particular layer, we get to formation of walls, and different walls will build a house. Similarly, the group of cells from the tissues, group of cells from the tissues, group of tissues from the organs, different organs we have, each organs from the organ system, and different organ systems relate to the function of an organism. Okay. On the basis of the cellular system, the organisms are classified as two types, mainly unicellular and multicellular organisms. The unicellular organisms are those organisms which consist of single cell, but it has developed it is a single cell, but it is acting like an organism. So examples are like amoeba, paramecium, okay, bacteria, yeast. These are all multicellular organisms. Okay, so here this is the given the organisms chart. Okay, the classification of such organisms, prokaryotes and eukaryotes, which we'll discuss later on. What is the major difference in prokaryotes and eukaryotes? The unicellular organisms we discuss. The multicellular organisms includes both the plants and animals. Okay, you can guess about that human beings as discussed that this group of cells form the tissues and then organs and organ system. So you may estimate that, or they estimated that human contains around 40 trillion cells. Okay, human beings contains around can see 40 trillion cells in the body, and out of that, only the human brain accounts for 80 billion of this. Right? So you can just imagine how complicated a human body is. Okay, in structure. So, so what is shape and size of cells? As we know, the shape and size of cells is not defined. It depends on the different functions they perform. Okay, different cells having different shapes. Like amoeba does not have a fixed shape; it changes the shape. Uh, Whereas some shapes are fixed, like muscle cell. The skin cell is cuboidal. The skin cell is cuboidal in shape. The blood cell is spherical. Which nerve cell has a typical structure. It has a nucleus here. This is a cell membrane. This is dendrites. Okay, so it's a typical shape which is fixed. Uh, so no, what does a cell consist of? Basic structure, as we have discussed about basic structure of cell. To the more, mainly the cell, you can see here the structure, and it consists of the cell membrane. So just the outer covering of the cell, which is separates the cell from the surrounding and from the inner material of the cell. Okay, and there is a cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the gel-like substance inside the cytoplasm is the gel-like substance inside the cell. Okay, so these act as a medium for the cell organelles to survive in the cell. Uh, Different organelles lives in the cytoplasm only. It is made of proteins and lipids. The thing is the nucleus, which is the center, which is the center of the cell. You can see here the nucleus. The nucleus is the center of cell. It is the most important part in the cell. It is important for the cell division and replication of the cells, as it helps in the reproduction. Nucleus contains the genetic material what is transferred from one during the cell division from one organism to the other organism. We will do in the details in the next slides about the different functions of this all these. Apart from this, there are cell organelles present in cytoplasm, different, which we will discuss in our next part. Okay. So the plasma membrane or cell membrane. Cell membrane we have discussed. It's a double layer made up of lipids and proteins. It separates the cytoplasm from the external environment. Function, it gives the structure and regulates the materials flowing, entering and leaving the cell. It acts as selectively permeable membrane. Right. It allows only those substances to pass through it which are required, and does not allow any harmful substances to pass through the cell, as it may damage the cell. So, how does this movement take place? We'll discuss here. Mostly the movement takes place because the process is known as diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion is just the movement of substances from an area of high concentration to low concentration. So the gases transfer, like carbon dioxide and oxygen, intake and outtake of oxygen and carbon dioxide in a particular cell. Every cell respire, they do the respiration to build an energy. Okay, so the diffusion takes place. The diffusion the transfer of gases takes place by process of diffusion. Okay, and the transfer of water, the solvent part, it takes place by process of osmosis. Osmosis is just diffusion, just a diffusion, same as diffusion, but it is the transfer of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane. Okay. Actually, when water moves into the cell by osmosis, pressure, hydrostatic pressure is developed. It's called osmotic pressure inside the cell. Okay. So we'll also deal that is this osmotic pressure is all the time beneficial, or sometimes it may be harmful for the cell itself. And how does the cell like if you place a cell in water, okay, then the water will enter into it because of the difference in concentration of water outside and inside the environment, and then the cell will swell, okay, due to osmosis or endosmosis. But uh, is it helpful, and what features is there? Is like human cell in human body cells are protected by different layers of skin and tissues, but in plants sometimes cells are directly exposed to the external environment. So how does the cell does not get damaged due to this osmotic pressure? So, so this is because of the presence of cell wall. We'll discuss later on. So now, what will happen if you put a plant or animal cell in sugar or salt solution? Okay, the salt solution. We will discuss here the different types of solution. The solutions are described. The solutions are three types mostly: the isotonic solution, hypertonic solution, hypertonic solution. These are divided on the basis of described on the basis of the amount of the concentration of the solution. Okay, if the concentration of the solution is more, like if the salt is more, sugar is more in the solution of sugar and water, it said to be concentrated solution, means the concentration of water is less. In this case, if you place a blood cell, here we take an example of blood cell. If you place a blood cell of any plant or animal cell and put it in the solution, you will observe that it will shrinken up. It will, as you can see, it will shrinken up. Why does it shrinken? Shrinken because the water inside the cell, the concentration of water inside the cell is greater compared to the concentration of water outside the surrounding. So the water will flow from the cell to the surrounding. Okay, but you can see in this case, in a hypertonic solution where the water this concentration of water is greater in the surrounding, then the cell swells up. Why it swells up? Because of the flow of water from the surrounding to the cell. You can see here swelling process. This is the automatic movement of water. But in a acidic solution where the concentration of water remains the same inside and outside the environment, there is no flow of water. Okay, so remember these three types of solutions: acidic solution, hypertonic solution, and hypertonic solutions. Okay, so these are the activities as given in NCERT. Is activity 5.3, activity 5.4 of osmosis. We have taken an egg cell, we have deshell it. We have taken an egg, we have deshell it and placed it in a two type container. One we have placed it in a water, and it is a hypertonic solution. One we have placed in a sugar solution or salt solution. So we can observe that in here the egg swells up. Normal egg is greater than the normal egg sizes because of the osmosis, or we can call it endosmosis. What is endosmosis? Endosmosis is when the flow of water takes from the surrounding to the inside of the cell. This is called endosmosis. Whereas here the cell is the egg is shrinken up. This is because of the concentration of water inside the cell is greater compared to the outside the surrounding. So in this case, the cell ruptures because the water from the cytoplasm try to exit the body, exit the cell membrane, and due to this, the lack of water, the cell ruptures. Taken the examples of the resins, which has swollen up when placed in the water. You can observe it when if you place some resins in the milk while making some dishes or drinking, you can observe that it will swell up if you putting few minutes. But if you try some of keeping some grapes or in a salt solution or sugar solution, you will observe that it will shrink up because of the osmosis. Okay. So once again, discuss what do you mean by endosmosis and what do you mean by exosmosis. Okay. So endosmosis is the flow of solvent material in water into a cell from outside of the cell is placed in distilled water, Cell fills up, whereas exosmosis is the outward flow of water from the cell and placed into a more concentrated solution like sugar solution or hypertonic solution. The cell sinks in this case. Okay, remember this to most important question. Now we'll get the cell wall. As we know that the cell wall is a protective layer across the cell membrane or outside the cell membrane. It is generally present in the plant cells. It is absent in the animal cell. The main function is to give the strength and the structure to the cell and to filter the molecular parts in and out of the cell. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. Cellulose is a complex substance and provides structural strength to plants. Okay, we'll discuss one more term here, that is plasmolysis. What is plasmolysis? When a living plant loses water through osmosis, there is a shrinkage of contraction of the contents of the cell on the cell wall. Means, like we have in the last example, when we place a when a, last example, like we have placed the cell in a water solution, and the water from the cell moves to the surrounding. In this case, the grape shrinkage. This type of this is an example of plasmolysis. Okay, so so how this cell wall is useful? We have did this experiment to show here, like this activity 5.6. Here we have taken a rheolith in water on a slide and examine the under microscope. We can observe the chloroplast and the which is responsible for the chlorophyll, and if you can use the chlorophyll, it means cell is live. If we have placed it on a sugar solution or salt solution, and wait from it, what we'll observe? We'll observe that it will shrink because of the concentrated solution. Okay, in a sugar solution, but in the presence of water, it will swell up. Whereas we have taken another rheoliths in and placed in a boiling water for minutes. So we kept the boiling water, it will kill all the cells. So when you observe under a microscope, you cannot observe the chloroplast because it is dead cell. We put a strong solution of sugar or water. We wait for a minute. They see there is no movement of water inside or outside the cell. From this experiment, we informed that the living cells can only absorb water, whereas dead cells cannot absorb water during osmosis. Similarly, as we know that the cell wall is made up of cellulose, or it's a type of dead cell. It's what type of dead cells. So it permits the cell of plants, fungi, and bacteria to withstand very dilute hypertonic solution, external media, without much. Like fungi is kept in the water, in the environment which has a lot of water, bacteria, fungi, and some kinds of plants. So in that cases, due to when they kept a hypertonic solution, the water from the surroundings comes inside the cell, and the cell swells up. So when the cell swells up, there is osmotic pressure developed inside the cell, and it may lead to the bursting of the cell, which may damage the cell. But due to the presence of cell wall, the cell wall exerts the pressure inside the swollen cell, and which leads to the cell to withstand this environment surrounding. And but there is no such case. The cell is not damaged. This is only because of the presence of cell wall. So you can kind of make a conclusion that the cells with the cell walls can withstand much greater changes in surrounding medium than an animal cell. Okay, are you clear with it? If you are having any doubts, you can write it on the comments section. Okay, and I'll make one more lectures on the short questions. But actually, if you will go through the video properly, and will one or two times and note it down what I'm saying, you can cover the whole chapter, and you will not get any doubt. If you have any doubts, you can comment in the link section. I will clearly separate, because these all topics are very vast. There's different we can make our lectures of a single topic. Okay, but I'm going to the syllabus of NCERT class 9, and at this level what is required, that only we'll discussing here. Okay, so thank you. You're having patience to look at the full video. So Now cytoplasm is the fluid, the gel-like substance present inside the cell membrane. It's a thick solution that fills in each cell and is enclosed by a cell membrane. It's mainly made up of what, as we discussed later, as before on, it is made up of water, salts, and proteins. Yep. Which includes all the metals inside and outside of the nucleus. So, what is the nucleus? The most important, nucleus is a central in cell reproduction. It is also referred to as the brain of the cell. But most important, its function is that it helps in the replication or replication process or division, cell division, during cell divisions. Nucleus it has a nuclear membrane. It has a nuclear membrane. Okay. So nuclear membrane, it encloses the contents of the nucleus from the cytoplasm, and there are pores in nuclear membrane. These pores are helpful for the intake and outtake of proteins or DNA and RNA from during processes. And the nucleus, inside the nucleus, there are chromatins. Contains that part of DNA. These are thread-like structures. Okay. So somewhere you may refer to as chromosomes, or chromatins. What is the difference between the chromatin and the chromosome? We'll discuss here. The most important function of the nucleus is, as discussed, it is in the place in the central cellular reproduction. Okay. In reproduction, this chromosomes or chromatin divides into two parts, and it is get transferred to the parent to the daughter organisms. Chromosomes, as discussed in the non-dividing cells, the DNA is present as a part of chromatin. The chromatin is this is the chromatin. This is entangled thread-like structures, which is chromatin. But during the cell division or replication, okay, you can see during the replication process, the chromatin the chromatin arranges in such a way to form chromosomes. Chromosomes are visual as rod-shaped structures. These are visual only when the cell is about to divide. Okay, and this chromosome is transferred to the next during the cell division from the parent to the daughter cells. How this process takes place, the division of cells, we'll discuss at the during the cell division. On the basis of the availability of nuclear membrane or nucleus, the cells are also classified as prokaryotic and eukaryotic, as we have on the classification of organisms we have observed. The prokaryotes does not have the prokaryotes, as you can see, it does not have any nucleus or nuclear membrane. It has a nucleoid. It has a nucleoid which contains the genetic part, that is the chromosomes. It has prokaryotes also has a single chromosome. It has only one chromosome. Whereas eukaryotes has a defined nucleus with the nuclear membrane. Okay. And so most plants, animals are eukaryotes, where some of the microorganisms are bacteria, like are prokaryotes. So as you can see here, the 3D structure of the cell. This is a cell membrane. This is a nucleus. Then this is a cytoplasm, gel-like substance, and here it contains the different organelles. This is refers to the cell organelles. These different cell organelles are capable of performing different functions which are required for the synthesis and the functioning of the proper functioning of the cell. This includes the endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, then mitochondria, is the powerhouse of the cell, the Golgi apparatus, Golgi bodies, these are Golgi bodies, the ribosomes. Okay, so which will go in details in our next part. I will just short functions of the different content of the cells, like cell membrane we have discussed. It is controls the exit and entering of the different substances inside the cell. The nuclear membrane controls what enters the nucleus. Nucleus controls the center of the cell. The chromosomes, it is contains genetic information. The endoplasmic reticulum transport system of cell. The ribosome makes proteins. Golgi bodies of the package proteins. It packages the protein. Vacuole stores. Lysosomes breaks down the whole cells. So it's also known as suicidal bag. Mitochondria provides do the cellular respiration and provide the energy. So it's also known as the provides the energy. Okay, this is also known as the powerhouse of the cell. So this is a diagram showing the difference between the plant cell and animal cell. As we've discussed, the major difference between a plant cell and animal cell is the availability of cell wall. One more difference which can review is that the presence of vacuole in a plant cell is much greater in compared to the animal cell. Because of the presence of large vacuole, the nucleus is moved to the side. In animal cell, the nucleus is usually the center of the cell. The plant cell also contains the chloroplast. Chloroplast contains the green color pigment, which is essential for the photosynthesis in green plants. It's known as chloroplast. Somewhere it is known as there are also some are chromoplast and leucoplast, depending on the types of color. Uh, they are present in non-green plants, which we'll discuss later on. The lysosomes, some organs like lysosomes is present in animal cells, but is not. It is absent in plant cells. Okay. It is the most important question as PCBSC. What is the difference between plants and animal cells? If you learn the diagram, you can easily differentiate between the plants and animal cells. So now come the final topic. It was the cell division. As we discussed, the cells are capable of dividing, and the reproduction process of the cell is only the cell division. So as you know, some material like binary, we have already learned in last classes of binary fission. Binary fission is the process which the simplest organism, useful organisms like amoeba takes place for cell division. It expands, then the internal division of the nucleus takes place, then it segregates into two parts and leads to formation of two daughter cells. In complex organisms, the mostly cell division, we have there are two types of cell division: the mitosis and the meiosis. The main aim of cell division is just what, that is the production of new cells, produce new cells. And in terms of single basic steps, start with a single parent cell. This is common to both mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis, there are 4 stages in total. It happens in most of the cells. The purpose is cellular proliferation, produces 2 daughter cells. Chromosomes number remains the same. Genetic variation does not change. It happens in all the cells except for the reproductive cells, the mitosis. Whereas the meiosis, there are 8 stages involved. It happens in the germ cell or sex cell. It is a sexual reproduction process. It happens. There's 4 daughter cells are produced, and the chromosomes are half the parent. The number of chromosomes is half that of the parent cell. Genetic variations is very much high in the meiosis. So you can observe the differences of the difference in the parent and the child in complex organisms because of the genetic variations in chromosomes. The diagrammatic representation showing the mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis require gametes and sperms for the germ cells for the formation of a zygote, that is a complete reproductive replication of the cell. But it has the half the number of chromosomes from the parent cells each. The mitosis, the 2 daughter cells are formed. Okay, 2 daughter cells are formed. Whereas the 4, 2, 3, 4 daughter cells are formed, each having the half number of chromosomes. So I hope all the doubts are cleared. If you have any doubts, you can mention on the comment section. Please subscribe the channel if you like the video. We have discussed all about the cell organelles, different cell organelles, the functions. We'll discuss in the next video of the in detail of the mycoplasm, lysosomes, Golgi bodies, and reticulum. Discuss the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotes, chromosomes and chromatin, nucleus, cytoplasm, the importance of cell wall, the different activities of osmosis, the different types of solution, the hypotonic acetate solution, and also the diffusion process, which is important for the movement of substances in the cell of the plasma membrane, the structure of the cell, the shape and size of the cells, different types of cells. Okay, so thank you for giving your time. I hope you like the video. We'll meet in next lecture, part 2, that is cell organelles and their functions. Thank you.